everyone. Welcome to another episode of Arcpoint Sessions. Today we have Mr. Ronald Houston joining us today of JDR Music. Um, this is a cool one for me. I've heard Mr. Houston, this teacher and performer that um, pretty much all of my friends in Texas growing up studied with him. He has trained some of the finest musicians that I know, especially from the Dallas area in Texas. Um, ranging from students that have won competitions, semi or quarterfinals in Primrose, Juilliard studies at IU. So really fantastic teacher, clearly. And a little background about him too is he has his own music academy, and something I really admire is his focus on community as well as pedagogy. So welcome to the show. I'm really glad to have you here.
Well, I'm glad to be here. And before we go any further, I just want to say happy birthday to you because this is a special day to be on your podcast. I mean, it's your birthday.
Yeah,
So happy birthday.
thank you so much. It's a good time. It's what better way to spend it than doing something I enjoy doing, right?
Yeah,
So
of course.
good.
It's great.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get started in classic fashion, kind of just getting to know a little bit about you, what you've done, what inspired you to build what you have going so far. So maybe we'll
Okay.
talk with where you studied. So I think you said NEC and then you went to IU as well.
I have 2 degrees from New England Conservatory in Boston. One of them is a Bachelor of Music, and the other is a Master in Music in Performance. And so I spent a long time there. I actually didn't finish my my master's degree at New England until way later because I was working so much. I was playing in the Boston Symphony a lot of the time and Handel Haydn Society and doing a whole Boston Pops, doing a whole bunch of stuff and didn't have time to go to school and go on tour and stuff. So I remember one of the counselors there told me, whenever you need to get your master's degree, you call. So I did that about, I don't know, 15 years later, and they worked it out that I could get my master's degree from there. And then after a few years of working, I decided I wanted to get an MBA. So I did go to Indiana University, where you are right now.
Hmm.
And my son actually was in a residency until last year over there. So there's a lot of tie to the Indiana University for me.
Yeah. So what inspired you to go? Was this MBA degree way later after finishing the master's as well, or?
It wasn't that much later, it was a few years later, and it was just something, I guess all of my family had that stuff, so I just felt compelled to go and do that. So I
Uh-huh.
took it. I did it in a year and a half over there,
Okay.
and I did that, moved to Dallas for a job, and didn't last very long and just went back to music.
Oh, so you had kind of pivoted in career for a little bit.
Pivoted a little bit because
Okay.
after you do the MBA, then you end up getting a job somewhere, and I did that, and I don't think that was going to work out.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Um, because was that before you went to TCU as a lecturer?
Oh yeah, it was quite a bit before that.
Okay.
This would be in the late 1980s.
Gotcha.
And so that was a long time ago. And I was teaching at TCU 2012, maybe
Okay.
2012 to 2014, somewhere around there.
Because was that before Misha was there, or was that during his?
Misha was there.
Okay.
I was actually teaching violin over there.
Oh, I see. I see. So that was before Adkins was there then.
Yes.
Okay. I see. Because
Yep.
I didn't even know that you taught there until later on after I left.
Yep.
So that's very cool. And you said you were working a lot during your master's in Boston. Symphony jobs you said mainly, or what else were you doing during that time?
I did a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
I I was a substitute in the Boston Symphony, but I was called a permanent substitute, a full time.
Hmm.
So I was playing basically full time, and but I also played in the Handel Haydn Society. I played in the Harvard Chamber Orchestra. I played chamber music with everybody, and so it was really busy. It was a lot of fun.
That sounds really cool. I mean, that's the best way to spend a master's degree, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Um, Professional experience with a safety net.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then after you did the MBA and did the career pivot and everything, how did you end up in Plano for SMU and everything?
So I moved to Dallas to work for what is now Bank of America, and I did that for exactly 1 year. I think I quit on my 1 year anniversary. Um, when I came down here, I I knew a few people. I actually knew Emmanuel Borak from Boston, and so I he hooked me up to play with some people, and then I started playing, and then my wife and me decided to start teaching.
Hmm.
So we started to teach, and then we realized that that could be a lot of fun and that could be a good living for us, and that we both love to do it. So we just started off, and I started playing, I started teaching, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
Yeah, that's very cool. Um, I feel like that's such a common thing for musicians. Are like, how are we going to make this work? And then they end up getting, well, a lot of the time end up being business related degrees, right? We have the arts administration stuff now that's even more
Yeah.
pertinent, but um, we see a lot of pivots. I think it's Stefan Jakiv that was a lawyer or something for at some point
Oh, I
too.
didn't know.
I think I could be wrong. Don't quote me, but there's a lot of interdisciplinary actions that musicians do, and then we find ourselves back where we started,
Yeah.
which is,
Um,
I think it's testament to passion, right?
yeah. And when I was in high school, I took an AP music theory class at the University of Bridgeport in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I
Hmm.
had a wonderful teacher named Dr. David Barnett. And he actually lived in my hometown of Weston, but he taught at Bridgeport University. And a whole bunch of musicians in Connecticut used to go I think it was on a Tuesday, every
Hmm.
Tuesday to do this theory class. And I have to say, we didn't really learn any theory, but Dr. Barnett was I mean, I thought he was 90 years old. He probably was 60 or 70 years old. And he had a real passion for teaching kids. And there were singers, there were piano players, violin players, viola players, cello players. There were all sorts of, probably about 20 of us, 15, 12 to 15 of us, I guess, in that class. And I remember a lot of it just having a lot of fun and meeting a lot of really cool people. But the biggest thing I remember is that at the last class, he said, I just want to tell you guys, he said, first of all, if you want to make it in music in the future, you have to know all styles. You have to know pop, you have to know jazz, you want to know classical. He said, I don't care what area you're in now. He said, you need to spread yourself out and learn a lot of things. So that stuck right here. And he also said, people tell you all the time through the ages that you're not going to be able to make a living in music, that you're probably going to have to do something else. And he said, but if you're able to have an open mind and just when you get an opportunity, take your opportunities and see where it leads you. He said, anybody can have a living in this wonderful career. And that hit me right there. And I said, and so now I'm a lot older than that. It's probably well, it's close to 50 years from that time really. And I have lived my whole career with those things in my mind that Dr. Barnett taught me. And then
Hmm.
I found out it's really cool because Dr. Barnett actually was commissioned to write a piece for William Primrose, and I have the music to it. It's called Ballade, and so it's awesome that there's like a tie there to the viola world
Yeah.
and to my career. So that really brought me in a lot of ways to where I am now and what I do now.
Yeah, no, it's important stuff, and I feel like it's easier to forget than it is to hold on to that, but it's it's good. It's good and relevant stuff because the stuff that I said stuff 3 times in 2 seconds. The the things that mentors are saying now is versatility is more important as it ever has been, right?
Yeah, it is.
Um, and I think oftentimes we overcomplicate what versatility is. And they're like, oh, yes, we need to use AI, we need to use technology and blah, blah, blah. It really just means be open-minded, right? And I think that's
Open-minded.
really
And
important that he said that.
one day, someone asked me to do a gig, a recording gig. I used to do a lot of recording here for a lot of things. I mean, there's not a lot of recording in Dallas anymore, but there used to be a lot, and I was part
Right.
of that gratefully. And one day, someone said, "Can you improvise?" And truly, I really wasn't that good at it, or didn't, but I know I knew a lot about pop music and I knew jazz standards. I knew what they were. I listened to it my whole life. And I decided I was going to say, of course I do.
Yeah.
And so I said, of course I know how to improvise. And they threw me into this gig. And it turns out that they gave me a bunch of things to listen to and a lot of music. And I learned a lot. And I looked at it, I worked at it. Um, and then when I went to the rehearsal, they'd started with something completely different and said, "We want this to be a violin solo." And I'm like, "Okay." And they said, "Just follow the chord chart." And I was like, "All right, what key is it in?" And they told me, and I just stood there and probably made a fool of myself, but I did it. And then they called me back again, and that just led one thing led to another, and it opened up a whole path of going to play pop music and recordings and this and that. And I mean, you name it, people would be playing a song and they'd say, "We need a fiddle player to play with us." And
Hmm.
you do it. And they would, sure. And and so that open-mindedness just opened up a completely new pathway in addition to everything else that I was doing. So it was like totally awesome.
Yeah. It's something that I found is less common than you'd think, especially when you're a starving artist in school. You'd think most people would say yes and like that improv rule of yes and I see a lot of people who go, oh no, I can't play pop music. That's gonna make my technique worse. Or oh no, I can't read lead sheet. Yes, you can. Just go for it, right? Um, so that's pretty cool. You did all the recording. It's kind of sad that the recording scene died in Dallas. I feel like there's
Yeah,
little things that are roots now that are starting to come back, but I
it
feel like
was,
it's not permanent.
I'm not going to get into the whole story, but a lot of it had to do with a problem that we had with the musicians union and things. And
Mm,
there were a few, there were a few curveballs thrown at all the musicians, and it just stopped one day.
mm,
It was pretty amazing. It just finished, and I guess I was well diversified, so it didn't affect me that much. But a lot of people had a big hit from that. 'Cause there was a lot going on here before in that respect. So I haven't I kind of left that area, but I hope that it's coming back. I mean,
I-
people do it now at their homes. I've done a lot of recordings for people here at my house, and but hopefully it's coming back because it's really fun work and it's good work, and it brings you a lot of experience doing a lot of really cool things, and you meet a lot of people.
yeah. Mostly the coolest part is just the networking and community basis
Yeah.
of it, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it I saw before I left town was grassroots type of things, smaller independent things, but I'm hoping that it starts to grow back again.
Yeah, of course.
Very, very cool. More versatile than I even thought. But let's kind of talk a little bit about your build of your studio. So, um, moved over to Dallas area for Bank of America and everything, and you started teaching.
Yeah.
So, what what really inspired the whole JDR music scene? Because I know you have the summer program, you have a viola ensemble, right? The viola power.
Yeah, we do. And actually, that goes on and off. But right now, we have a four-person viola ensemble called West Viola Power that's just burning up on
I
Instagram,
saw. And
which
they
is
won a
really
competition
cool.
or something too, right?
They are going to be on the From the Top
That's right.
uh, broadcast, and so they are From the Top fellows now, and that's how they actually started. That my wife and I work integrally together, and she said, you know, we should do that. Those four kids, they all go to the same school at Plano West Senior High. They should play that piece, and then we should try to get them on From the Top. So I called the From the Top show, and I said, what would you think of having a group? And they said, well, we want them to audition. So we prepared for that, and they loved it, I guess, because they took them on,
Yeah.
and so they took it upon themselves to start to play all these other little things and put it on Instagram. And so now they're a big thing, I guess. Because one of my students from Venezuela that goes to SMU, she said, "Do you know that people write to me from Venezuela asking about this group in Dallas, and I'm so proud that, to tell them that's my teacher, that runs this." But so yeah, the viola power, it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool what you do because we see a bunch of the Texas cellos things, the cello choir,
Yeah.
cello this, cello that. And I was talking with one of my cellist friends that works with Texas cellos, and was like, why don't we do a viola one? And I remembered about your thing that you do. But what I assume you started in a traditional studio fashion. You recruited students and everything. What inspired the branding and the business aspect? Because I know you have your YouTube and you have your website and all of that as well.
Well, I mean, I started teaching here in Dallas in 1989, I think, 1990, around there.
Mhm.
And and then when my students needed instruments, then it was hard for them to find good instruments at good prices. So then I talked to a friend of mine that was in the business, and we worked something out, and I started to sell them their instruments, and we started a whole business out of that. And that was good for me, and it was good for the students because everybody was, doing well from that.
Mhm.
So we started the company as a kind of retail business, I guess. In
Okay.
and then we started calling everything something to do with JDR Music, and that just started to become a thing. That it became like a brand for us. That we have Ronald Houston, we have JDR Music, and then when we would do like the viola ensemble type thing, then we would just say that it's sponsored from JDR Music, which it was. And then we decided to call our thing JDR Music Academy. Why not? And then we had a camp and called it JDR Music Academy, and grew grew from there. So people just knew what it was. And I think it's funny because nobody knows what JDR means. And we get all the time people guessing what it means, and we being my wife and me and myself, we never are going to tell anybody what it means. We decided that a long time ago. One time during the camp, people were writing on the blackboard all the things it could be and having a contest to figure out who was right, but they never found out because we didn't tell them. And
Yeah.
nobody actually wrote the right thing down anyway
Oh, that's pretty
on
funny.
the board out of all the guesses that they had. But it just became something. I think from my business background, when you brand something, it's good to use your brand.
Hmm.
And if people recognize the name, then they'll think that there's something intriguing or interesting about it. And then you're able to use that. And so it's been a big benefit for us and a big benefit for others because they see that that's what it is. And then I did a video about a shoulder rest, the EFL shoulder rest, and the guy that makes it, that actually manufactures and designed it, contacted me and asked me if I would represent the product.
Hmm.
And I had been using it for a long time. So I said, I thought, well, that is good, but how am I going to sell this? And so I decided to just open, some stores online and this and that, and branded it as JDR and as usual. And because it is.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, I need to have other products, and came up with a chin rest and some rosin that's, not as easy to, it's not available at stores and things that I think is great. And I just put the brand on those things too. So that's really the short story or long story of how that happened. Things sometimes the best things, I guess, they just kind of grow and happen
From the open-mindedness. Yeah.
from open.
That's really interesting because we had never talked before. You can attest to that, right?
I've never met you before. Yeah, I'm glad. I'm
But
now. I'm more and more glad that I have met you.
but I will tell you, me too, because I will tell you, we have a very similar thing of I started this Arcpoint deal because I realized reputation is super important to have. And yes, my name of Jacob can have a reputation as a performer or a teacher or whatever, but to get grants, to get money, to get backing, to get sponsorships, anything like that, Jacob Burk has less weight than a LLC or a nonprofit.
Yeah,
And what you did for getting students more accessible instruments and things like that, and finding essentially, I assume, brand deals, kind of type of deal, partnerships, is super helpful because you're funneling in resource for your students in studio to
yeah,
grow. It's
yeah,
super, super nice.
yeah.
Um, so I know your music academy, the summer program that you hold, you've been doing that for at,
Long
at least
time.
5 or 6 years, right? Or has it been much longer?
Oh, it's been. I mean, we started in probably 1992 or three,
Okay.
and that would be a viola camp that we did. So we
Uh,
started by doing a viola camp for a few days, and that was good. And then we stopped that and we started it again, and then we stopped that again, and then we tried to do a viola academy and a violin academy separately one year, and that didn't work very well. So then we stopped that, and then we decided we were going to do let's just have one camp for everybody.
mhm.
And so we started to do that, and that worked out really well. I teach violin and viola both about the same amount of students, so we had a lot of people and a lot of people outside. Actually, we kind of kept it. We kind of keep the camp more inside, and we let people come in. I auditioned some people that come in from the outside and of our class. So now it's more it's more open now.
Mhm.
But we started to run that, and it was working well. And now it's awesome because the Ballardet Quartet, who was living in Bloomington until this year, they they're our faculty because the cellist, of course, is my son, and so they teach with us over there.
Mhm.
So that's a very positive thing because the kids get a lot of continuity with that, and so
Yeah.
they don't all the time, but they look forward to seeing them, and so now the camp kind of has, again, it just keeps on evolving to this, then to this, then to this, and now it's evolved to a really, really beautiful thing. It's great.
So it's primarily high school age, right? That you kind of target it
Well,
to?
it's anywhere from elementary school to high school.
Okay, so it's a pretty
Yeah.
big range.
Yeah, and a lot of my students come and help out that are in college now, so they'll
Hmm.
come and out and they'll play a little bit. But there's a big range in age. We teach people from, from whatever age, and bring them up, so which is wonderful. And they love to go to the camp, and a lot of them have been to the camp, every year from
Hmm.
age 8 or something all the way up through graduating.
Yeah. Which that, I mean, I think the really cool thing about having Valor Data there is the inspirational thing of, look, if you can find other friends that play the other instruments too, it's like you can do this,
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
closer, not necessarily that close in age, with closer in age vicinity to where it's even more realistic. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Um, I maybe I want to backtrack a bit about uh you're you're performing? Because we do hear Texas people at least do hear a lot about Mr. Houston's teaching, and I think a lot of people can go um, see your YouTube tutorials and everything too, um, and get a sense of your background, which is also funny. Um, Funny that you can tell backgrounds of style of playing just from how people teach. But I do want to ask about your performing and everything because you've mentioned recording um, a lot of symphony gigs, chamber music, and everything. What, who was like a big artistic role model for you when you were actively going through all of that? Did you have a specific mentor that stuck with you?
I mean, I had a mentor named Frank Brief who was he lived in New Haven, Connecticut, and he played in the NBC Symphony.
Mm.
I think if I'm right, he sat right behind William Primrose.
Oh wow.
And and then he ended up conducting the New Haven Symphony.
Mm.
And he was always someone that I could talk to and play for many years. So that would be kind of a I used to say he was my mentor for a long time. I think my inspiration was probably Walter Trampler, who back in the 70s and 80s was probably the preeminent viola chamber music person.
Hmm.
Played in Chamber Music Society of Lincoln Center and used to play all over the place. And I studied with him, and he was really um, inspiring about how to be a really good musician and how to play chamber music. I worked with Eugene Lehner,
Mm.
who was in the Polish Quartet, and I thought it was cool that he premiered a bunch of Bartok quartets, and he knew Bartok, and
Right.
he would, and he taught the Juilliard Quartet. You know, he was a big person back then to study chamber music with, and I just was really lucky to be able to work with people like that, and they inspired me to do things. And I loved to play with other people. I loved playing chamber music. I went to a place called Norfolk,
Mm.
that's Yale's summer program in Connecticut, and I learned a lot. I like to learn things, so when I learn about things, I try to do my best at them, and sometimes I learn too much, I guess. But but um but that really and and I guess I'm going off on that side, but I think just now thinking even further that the people that really influenced me to for chamber music and even orchestra playing was probably my friends. I looked up to a lot of my friends, and I had a lot of friends that were a bit older than I was that would show me the ropes, I guess, and teach me how to do things. And I always felt that that's one really positive thing that I had was a lot of people that were older and they were a little bit more established than I was, I guess, and they really helped me and I looked up to them. And
Hmm.
I guess a word of advice would be like if you seek advice from people and you want to learn, the whole world is open to you. And I I took advantage of that and learned a lot and decided what I liked. And I have to say, I kind of liked everything that I did. You know, like if I was playing here, I liked it. If I was playing there, I liked it. I liked a lot of things. I thought it was fun to do
Mm.
most things. So, and I learned how to be a concert master. I learned how to be a section player. I learned how to contract people. I learned how to play chamber music. I learned how to fight with people in chamber music group and not to fight with people in a chamber music group.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many things to learn.
Hmm. So being an
So
optimistic sponge.
I'm an optimistic sponge and and I take advice from people seriously
Hmm.
and and I think everybody has valid points when they tell me things and I I work hard to make things work.
Yeah, that's that's very clear to me. I think that's really cool. I feel like a lot of people can get stubborn in their own ways and be like, "Yes, I know everything," type of thing, especially when you're established, right? You have that kind of comfort to have ego, I guess. So it's important and relevant, I think, especially with what my mission is with Artpoint to establish the importance of continuously growing and
Oh
no
yeah,
one has anything figured out. Um, but also figuring it out is the most fun part,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, I make a lot of mistakes, and I'm willing to, you know, take accountability for all of them. But you have to make mistakes to get other places, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe that's the violist mindset, not the violinist one. I don't know. So did you grow up in Connecticut?
I
Is that
did. I
the
grew up in
okay.
Weston, Connecticut, and I lived there till I was 18. And then I moved to
Okay.
Boston.
Really cool. I was really hoping Yale or NEC would work out, but it's so expensive. It's so
It is
expensive.
expensive. It is. It was much less expensive when I was going to college. We never really had to think about that stuff.
Mm,
So I feel I see all of the students, you know, having to make these decisions because of financial things, and it really um, it's a little it can be disheartening, you know, the amount of money people have to spend for things. It's and to be a musician, it just takes so much money, and so you know, there's that problem.
yeah, there's that problem. That's for sure. Um, so you said you were a concert master. How long did you play violin before kind of, I mean, you're primarily violist now, but before transitioning, let's say, before
Well, I mean,
pivoting.
I always kind of played both, so it
Okay.
just yeah, just kind of happened. And then when it's funny because when I first started playing professionally, it was almost all viola. Then after a while, it was kind of a mix. And then towards the I don't play that much anymore. I play a little bit, but towards the end, it was mostly violin stuff. Only because I was contracting a lot, so then I would have to play concertmaster to kind of, you know, be in charge of
I
things.
see.
Yeah.
So you kind of you didn't start on violin. You just did both from
I
off
would
the.
start on violin and then kind of, but soon after, just kind of play
Okay.
both. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I hear, I mean, the stories from all the people are, oh yeah, I switched to viola because of chamber music, and then I stopped playing violin. You know,
No, I
um,
mean, you know, they're great. They're both great instruments, and they're so
yeah,
different. And so there's just, you know, there's diversity there.
yeah, it keeps things interesting. Except the shrill E string just bothers me. Um,
Yeah, don't like it.
so when you're teaching, I know a lot of your students, I assume, start with you at a younger age, right?
Some do, yeah.
Um, what is your philosophy like when it comes to um prioritization of pedagogy and everything? I know it's a completely different ballgame teaching 8-year-old than it is let's say someone that's new starting with you as a freshman in college. But let's take uh fresh new violin or violist. What is your pedagogy like? How does that look like for teaching in your studio?
You mean somebody that's never played before?
Someone who's never played before. Yeah.
Um, get them to love their instrument and love the teacher, I guess.
Yeah, I
And have them see other people play and see why the music is so awesome. And and then they want to play. I mean, I don't think that I try to approach everybody that like I don't see that much difference between an 8-year old and an 18-year old or a 28-year old. I think
mhm.
I've seen a lot of people play amazing, you know, do amazing things. Not when you say amazing things, it doesn't mean, playing Brahms violin concerto or something. It means that they're just able to do things. And I think a good teacher needs to be an enabler for people to, you enable people to play just about anything. And it's funny, there was a girl that I used to teach that was kind of a beginner, but she was in ninth grade, and she did play the piano, but she had started in January at school,
Hmm.
Plano, and in May, the teacher at Plano in the school called me up and said, "Can you teach this girl? She's a beginner, and she's, in my class, she's in ninth grade." And I was like, "Well, I don't know." He said, "But she's really talented." I said, "All right, I'll try." So I started teaching her, and I thought, I wonder what would really have her play, because she loved music and she played piano well. She was already knew what was going on, and she wanted to play well, and she was old enough and more mature enough to know that she wanted to do well. So I just decided to tell her that everything she did was so easy and there was something wrong with her if she couldn't do it. And that was the strategy on that. And it was amazing. By the time she graduated, well, but that there's an all region thing in Texas, as you know. It's hard to get into all region, especially when you're in Plano. And she
Yeah.
made all region not even playing 1 year.
Wow.
And 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 I just kept on telling her, "Oh, come on, that's easy." She comes into the lesson. She said, "This is so hard." I said, "No, it's not. What are you talking about?" I said, "This is so easy. You don't tell me that." And she ended up playing every piece in the repertoire. And she always had a bit of a sound of a beginner in a certain way. I mean, she didn't sound like it. She sounded just a little raw, I guess, because she started late and she was just a few years playing, but
Hmm.
she could play anything. This girl could play anything. And I learned from that. I was like, wow, that's really amazing. If you tell people something's hard, they have a hard time learning it. But if you tell them it's easy and you kind of enable them to play it, they're gonna do things that you never knew anybody could do.
Yeah.
So
That's that's super cool to hear you say, because I'll give the audience some background and maybe you some background of my thoughts about your teaching. Every single person surrounded by me basically worked with him as a student growing up in Allstate and in GDYO and everything, which are two really great things for musical growth. If anyone's in Texas and in high school, please go do those things. And I always was like, how do these people just do it? It looks so effortless. Young Ha, it was, I always called him jokingly my arch nemesis. Um, because he just had it. He was learning bar talk, and I remember, I think it was our senior year of high school, and just seemed so easy for him. And I was like, man, this Mr. Houston guy must be so strict and to the point. He must get his students and get them into shape. No, and that's something that I think as kids we often are like, oh, the teacher has to be harsh for students to have progress. And I think that's cool that you just say, oh, that's easy. And not to say that you do that with everything, but that's a good outlook.
no, but I mean, I remember going to a master class with James Buswell, who used to teach at Indiana,
Hmm.
and um, and he, someone asked him a question about nerves. Because every master class you ever go to, someone will raise their hand and say, "What do you do about nerves?"
Right. Every
What's
single one.
and he said, "You know, you have to relax." He said, "But the problem is that if somebody looks at you and says, 'relax,' he said, you actually tense up.
Yeah.
So you have to, not think you can't think that way. You can't tell yourself to do things. You can't yell at yourself. You have to be very nice to yourself. And same thing with the students. You have to be really nice to them. I know that a lot of people say that I'm really mean and really strict, but I'm strict in the sense that I expect my students to do their best and to not mess around and to be serious and to when if they're taking an audition or doing something
Hmm.
that they're accountable, which I think is good. But that's to that extent, I'm very, very strict. But
Yeah, well, because you're
as far as
training character
yelling
at
at
that
someone,
point.
what?
You're training character at that point, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
part of the
But
game.
as far as getting someone to play something, you can't yell at someone to. They're not going to play something if you yell at them. They're not going to want to play anything.
Yeah.
You have to be nice to people. I mean, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. I mean, you know a little bit about my background. I'm Suzuki background from, you know, until high school-ish. And then I started working with the Russian school of thought. And
Mm,
that was a complete curveball to the Suzuki training because Suzuki training, if people don't know, is a lot like what Mr. Houston's talking about, nurturing growth. But you do have expectations. A lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, Suzuki people are sensitive," uh, but well, we can be. But there's still a lot of regimen in preparation and the left-hand sound, and Dr. Suzuki preached on tone
yeah,
was the
of course.
biggest thing, ringtones and everything. Russian school of thought, at least the old school way, is um, a lot of mind games can be, and uh, that definitely was a big learning curve for me. And I'm still getting rid of a lot of the habits and bad things that are going on in the head here. Um, and actually, recently just had a talk with Professor Arad Attar um, about the the effects of it because I honestly thought he was going to be very similar of these like mind games and whip them into shape and everything. And while he does have, as you say, the expectations you're talking about, um, there's no way that he would. That's horrendous. How dare you ever do such a that's it doesn't really do much good. It actually more traumatizes an artist to do that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's cool though. I you know uh it's rare to see a teacher that has so many success stories that you have. So as a pedagogue myself, I want to like learn all of your secrets. It's like, wow.
there's
Um,
no secrets.
there's no secrets, right? There's a lot of it's meeting people where they're at, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody's different, and some people just need to be talked to a lot. They're just
Mhm.
so much variety, and different people want to do different things. They have different aspirations, and different people have different abilities.
Yeah.
It's not fair to assume that someone's unable to do something, because I think most people are able to do whatever they want to do.
Mhm.
And it takes a person to tell them that and to bring those things out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very important stuff. And I want to backtrack because I said, Mr. Houston has a lot of success rates. What is success? I shouldn't have said everyone has success rates. I should say the amount of growth that his students have and the amount of freedom that they have is really inspiring to see. When I was young and performing with them, but also now seeing, the viola quartet for From the Top and everything, seeing this musical growth and community is really honestly
Yeah,
an inspiring
awesome.
thing.
It's awesome.
Um, with with yourself having so many hats, really a business, a performer, teacher, director, and everything. Um, you've talked a little bit about it, but how has your identity shifted through the years? I guess primarily through when you were more active as a performer to now more almost like a Golamian figure, as a pedagogue type of thing, right?
Yeah. How have I changed, or how has my change been perceived? Um, it's a hard question to answer, but um, I think a lot of people. It's interesting because a lot of people would thought that I was weird to not play as much and teach more,
Hmm.
but as I've as we've gotten older, I think that they've changed their mind, I guess, that it wasn't so weird what happened. And I think it's hard to say how things changed because it just kind of
Happened?
happened that way. And so I'm basically the same person. Hopefully I'm nicer now or better now than I was, years ago, who knows, but I'm basically, I don't think that the personality has changed or anything too much.
Hmm. Do you
I
feel
think
like the core values have kind of stayed the same within yourself through
well, I
that
think
time?
that my core values got better. I have a good mentor in my wife.
Hmm.
And, so she tends to be she guides me a lot, so that's good for me. And so I think that value wise, I think I've grown a lot. I mean, I tried to grow as a person, and like I said, I'm accountable for my mistakes, so I make plenty of them, and then I grow from them and figure out how to go on from there.
Hmm.
There are setbacks, but I don't think there's, when you're a musician, you can play, you can teach, you can manage, you can do all sorts of things, but at the bottom core of everything, I'm just a musician like everybody else, and we're all kind of in this together. So yeah, that would be my answer to that.
It's, I think a lot of people, I mean, myself a few years ago would have even thought too that um, a performer has to act one way and a teacher has to act another way, and realistically, the best probably act themselves as a person themselves, and then there won't be as much of an identity crisis. Is that kind of what you're saying? Is like you're just
Yeah,
you?
and I mean, one thing that just popped into my mind, I remember a long time ago, we played a concert. It was I don't know, some sort of chamber music concert. And
Hmm.
we had to go down to downtown Dallas and play the concert. And turned out there were three people in the audience. So we played a whole concert for three people. And I had played a recital in Boston for, I think, five people one time. And, it's strange to have so few people in an audience.
Hmm.
But when you're teaching, I mean, I think my students are my best audience. They
Yeah.
appreciate my playing more than anybody else is ever going to. And so if you think of it that way, I may not be, going on to the Carnegie Hall stage, which my son is next month, but which is great for them. But I may not be walking on those floors these days, but I can sit here and my students are going to listen to me perform every day. And so it just depends on perception, I think, that people see performing as, going somewhere and having to play for many people. But when you're teaching, you're performing every day.
Hmm.
And it's fun. I mean, it's fun. You get instant feedback. People will tell you if they really like it. I mean, sometimes they don't say anything, which is fine, but a lot of times, they'll say, "Oh, that's just so beautiful. And how do you do that?" And what's wrong with that? That's it's great. So I learned that in life, that you don't have to be on a stage with people you don't know to be a successful performer. You can be playing for a student. I mean, they learn more from your playing than other people anyway. They
Yeah,
appreciate it. So,
that's interesting. I just released the interview with Matthew Lipman, and one of the points he brought up is James Ennis was talking to him about how the grass is always greener, right? You could be performing a concerto with Rhode Island, but you're wanting to actually play with Berlin,
right.
or you could be wanting to play with New York, but then when you're at New York, you could be wanting to play with Berlin,
Exactly.
and it's something that chews away at myself because I'm now 26, and I'm like, well, darn, I haven't done X, Y, or Z. I want to do that. So I'm like chomping at the bit. But realistically, I've also done this, 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 this. And it
Exactly.
feels the same amount of uh, what's the word? Gratification, right? And
It
I think
is.
that it takes a level of security to have that, what you're saying, your best audience oftentimes is your own students because they appreciate it
Yeah.
more. Um, yeah, you don't have to be a superstar.
I mean, that actually, I'm going to contradict that because you're actually more of a superstar
Yeah,
if you look at
yeah,
it. You, Michael Jordan's famous with everybody, you know,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And then, one can be famous with just as famous with a small group of people, I
Hmm.
guess would be how that works. And so same thing as a performer, you as a performer, one shouldn't care how many people they're playing for. They should just care that people are listening to them. I mean, that's what being a musician is all about.
Yeah, it's a privilege to just be able to share music
Yeah.
and be an artist. Yeah, no, it takes a level of maturity because I feel like most of the people I know, myself included, can find ourselves chasing, you know. So that's really really awesome. Okay, I have to pick your brain on teaching a little bit. I don't want to go too much and take your time, but um, if you were to label yourself as one kind of, I made a joke about calling you the modern day Gulamian. But if you were to self-prescribe yourself into a philosophy, how would you loop that in for people that don't know you too well? Because for those of you that don't know, he makes a lot of kind of breakdown tutorials on certain techniques for viola and violin on YouTube.
I would say inspire people and help them become better,
Mhm,
and 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 have people understand that they can do things way more difficult than they think that they can, and that anything's possible. It's just an instrument. If you can play one note, you can play 10,000 notes. It really doesn't make a difference.
mm. It's very philosophical, honestly. Very cool. I do this little, I don't know if you've seen, but I do a thing called the resonance moment. And they are kind of like a time capsule type of thing. So it could be a quote that is stuck with you that you're thinking about. It could be a piece of music that you're currently working on. It could be a student interactions that you've had recently. Something that has had your mind intrigued that might speak to somebody else who's listening, or something that, oh, my Arcpoint conversation was just published and it's shown that it was a year ago. I'm gonna go listen back. I wonder what I was thinking back then, type of moment. Do you have anything like that that you're churning on these days?
Wow. So wait, let me clarify that. What
Yeah.
am I? What
It
is it?
could be realistically anything, but it could be I think Imad had a quote from one of his professors. Matthew talked about problems within the music industry and stuff like that. There's a plethora of different things, but just something that you've been thinking about recently.
Okay. I think I'm going to kind of reiterate what the Dr. Barnett, my theory teacher, told me way back when,
Mhm.
would be that if you want to be in this business, if you like to play music, if you love music, there's a place for you. And I wish that, and a lot of people have to decide, should I major, my students, should I major in music? Should I be an engineer? Should I be a computer science person? Whatever they're going to be. And I always tell them, you can always do something else, but it's harder to come back to music. And if you love music, there's always a place for people and it's fun. It
Mhm.
can be. And I guess that would be what I would have to say is there's always a place for someone that loves music. And if you decide to do something else, that you should always love music and make your friends from playing music and stay active.
Like finding a community of music type of thing.
So I don't know if that's exactly what you wanted me to say,
It's
but
anything. It's free
um,
for.
but I think to me it's just important that whether someone's a music major, whether someone goes off totally differently, that they have a love of music, because once we're in this music world, I think it's something that should stay with us forever.
Yeah. And uh, adding on probably too, you probably agree that even if you don't stay in the musical world, you've grown a lot from being a musician,
Of
right?
course. There's
we
a
have
guy that makes violas, William Harris Lee,
yeah,
and he travels around. I don't know if he does this still, but he used to travel around in a big truck or a big bus or a Volkswagen
I
van
can
or something.
attest. I just met him with his little truck thing. Yeah.
And he talks to a lot of people. And one day we were eating at a pancake breakfast house, and he says, "There's never been a person that told me that they wish they practiced less." That's what he told me. And I thought, that's really cool. It's like he
Yeah.
said, people everywhere that, some of the parents of people that, the people that buy the instrument for their children, they'll say, they'll never say, "I wish I didn't practice. I wish I didn't do music." They only wish that they did more.
Yeah.
And that really hit me hard when he said that. It was a long time ago. And I always, I like I said before, I always remember these things. And that's how hearing things like that really helps one develop who they are later in their life. And I've mentioned a few of those things to you already that people have told me. And so I guess one of the resonating things I can say probably would be listen to everybody. I wish people would listen to everybody. It doesn't matter. You can what you think of them. When they tell you something, there's always something there. And if you let that sink into yourself, you will do nothing but grow for the rest of your life.
Hmm. Yeah, I have a plan, and maybe I'll have to pick your brain if this is a smart idea, but I kind of want to release an episode with someone talking to me because something that I forced myself to do last year was audition at 16 different universities and conservatories for the doctorate programs. And people are
Mm.
like, why? Why? That's such a money waste. You're traveling during all the plane weirdness and everything, and it's such a risk. And my answer to them was, first of all, the university is helping me pay for it. So whatever. Secondly, I am getting older, and this is one of my last times that I'm going to be able to audition for these people that I respect for, have a lot of respect for, like a Torre. And, you know, uh, the chances you get to see these people are auditioning for their school or summer festivals, right? And I said, I am nothing if not trying to gather perspective, right?
Yeah.
And when I was auditioning for all these people, of course, they're all different. They're so different. And it gets really hard to gather where to go with all of these different ideas being thrown at you. Um, and sometimes it gets really overwhelming when the only thing you hear is intonation. Um, but like growing from just hearing, you need to be more charismatic on stage. Oh, you need to care less about what X person says, or sometimes really hurtful things being told to you. You can take it and not take it too much to heart, but grow from
Exactly.
what not to think, or
Yeah,
what not to. Yeah,
exactly.
it's it's hard to do what you're saying and absorb and be a sponge, but I like the part about the optimistic sponge. It's relevant in music, but relevant in life, more so now than ever, I feel.
Yeah.
So good resonance moments. Um, yeah. Do you have anything that you've been working on or uh doing that's been really exciting for you recently that you want to share or talk about?
No, I mean, I'm just doing what I do. I haven't made enough YouTube videos lately, so I'm going to start making some of those now again. Um, that's exciting. For a viola like tutorial and whatever station or channel or whatever you call it. I'm I think today's the day that I'm hitting a million views.
Wow.
And so that's really cool. And there's so many people out there, especially amateurs and students that watch my channel religiously. And I think it's just the coolest thing because I just decided one day to make a video because I was a tester for rondo strings, And so I just made a quick 3-minute video and put it on. And then I said, hey, this is fun. And I started to make a few videos. And 5 years later, now I'm hitting 1 million views and all these follower people or whatever you call them, subscribers. And they learn from that. And it's so cool to me that around the world there are so many people that just want to learn how to play the viola, and that little me can actually be part of their growth. So that's I guess that would be on my mind, that I'm pretty sure today is the day that I'm getting my millionth view.
That's awesome. I
My
didn't know
birthday.
you were that recent with the whole YouTube side of things too. Was it, I guess, during COVID?
It was I had another YouTube channel that I would put sometimes, my son playing, or Yongha, or some other student, or the viola power group. But
Mhm.
then I started the YouTube channel as it is in 2020. Mhm.
Okay. Because yeah, I remember seeing the Rondo video that you had posted. I guess we were either friends on Facebook at that point, or it just popped up because all of my YouTube is
Probably
classical
just
music.
popped up because I don't think I was on Facebook then.
Maybe
But
maybe it just popped up, but I saw that and I was like, "Oh, this is him."
yeah. And I was a tester, so when I tested them, I put them on and I said, I'm going to test them live, and put a
Uh-huh.
iPhone in front of me, and now I have a different camera and I have a big light right here that
Yep.
shines on.
The whole
But
studio setup.
the whole thing, but it's just been really interesting to see how that happened. Again, just like everything else, it seems you just start with nothing and it just grows into something, and you turn around and you say, wow, that's cool. you know
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you
that's
have you
about it.
have you kind of pivoted it into focus things that are going on in your current studio to make
No,
videos about, or is it just
no, I actually just I don't have a script. I try to do everything in one take, and I turn the camera on, and quite frankly, I don't know what I'm going to talk about, and I just open my mouth and make the videos. Most of the time, that's what I do.
that's pretty,
And
I would not have been able to tell. I thought some of them were like inspired because someone was struggling with spiccato or something.
I just think what would be good for people to learn.
Yeah,
And I'm okay. Yeah.
very cool.
Yep.
All right.
Well,
Well, thank you so much for joining.
thanks for
This
having me.
this was a really refreshing episode. I feel we can often, like I said at the beginning, we often overcomplicate what it means to be a person, but also a musician. And, finally getting to meet with you and talk with you and see how you think was really
Yeah.
cool.
I hope we can
Yeah,
stay in touch.
yeah, absolutely. We definitely will. I'll have to stop by when I'm back in Texas. I'll have to pick your brain
Okay.
on
Yeah.
how
Well,
to
come on.
play with ease.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Thanks a
thank
lot.
you so much for joining.
Thank you.